What's up guys, today we are going to solve valid anagram problem from the Leetcode. Firstly, we want to draft the problem solution. So we are having two strings, as an example anagram and negagram, and you want to see if they are anagrams. Two strings are anagrams if they contain the same amount of letters. Or if, as another explanation, we can move the letters from the other string in such a way that we can get the first string from it. Okay, what are the solutions? Well, a pretty simple solution is just to make the frequency of the letters and to measure the length of the strings. So if s is truly equal to the other string, if we are going to count the frequency of every letter from s, it should match the frequency of every letter for every letter from t. So we can use a hash map for this solution. Let's think if we do a hash map for the s. So this is going to count the letters of the s. First letter for the a is going to have the frequency at the end of 3. The other one of the other elements or letters, I'm going just to write all of them. Okay, they match. And now when we are going to the other string, we need to one way that we can solve this problem is to try and get every letter to decrease the map key value. So as an example, the first letter is going to decrease the count of the map. So this is going to be 0. The other one, A, is going to decrease the letter from the A too. So it's going to be 2. At the end of the iteration, the A's are going to be 3. So this is going to be 0. This is going to be 0. And all of them are going to be 0. Because if we add every letter to the frequency from the first string and from the other string we subtract it, if they are truly anagrams at the end, all the letters should have a 0. Let's imagine that we would have an I here. Then it's a letter that we cannot find. So let's take the I. And we are going to search. Do we have I in the hash map? No. That means that the first string did not have an I. Or let's imagine that it had an I. Okay. So it would subtract it. So it would be 0. But the n would remain 1. So which means that this had a letter which the other string didn't have. So at the end of the iterations, all of the letters should be 0, and all of the letters from the other string should be found in the hash map created by the first string. Another way of doing this thing is with an array, but this is a more simple explanation, so we're going to use a hash map. Let's start with the first solution in C++. I will just add the library so I don't get an error. I really don't like the warnings. Okay, so I said that we can use the hash map. So the hash map is going to have a char as the key and an integer as a value, hash map or frequency map. You can call it like that, frequency of the letter. We can iterate every string, every character from the first string, and we want to increase the frequency of the letter, but first we have to see if we added it into the hash map, because we need to register it into the map. If rec.find of letter C is equal to the end, it means that it's not registered to the map, so it's going to be its first operation, which is going to be 1. Else we can increase its operation plus plus. Okay, at the end we can iterate the second character array, and for every letter, if we cannot find a letter from the second array of strings of chars, it means that they are not anagrams, because the second one is containing a letter that the first one is not containing, so return false. Else we can just subtract the frequencies, so frequency of the character minus minus. At the end, if we iterate over the map for key pair in, or we can call it entry in the map, so we are iterating through the map. Entry put first is going to be the key, and dot second is going to be the value. So the key is the letter and the second is the frequency. If we find a letter which is not equal to 0, we can return false, else return true. Let's try it out. And from what you can see, it worked just fine. For the Java solution, we will also use again a hash map. So we want a hash map of char, character, and an integer. We can call it the same, frequency, and it's going to be equal to a hash map of a character and an integer pair. Now, firstly, I would like to verify if we have the same length for the characters. So if the length of the strings does not match, we can just return false, because they are not going to be anagrams. Now we can iterate into the first string, so integer I from 0 to the length of the first string. If we cannot find into the map the character from the I position, if this is going to be null, it means that it's its first operation, so we can set it and the first key value pair is going to be 1 because it's first operation. So if we cannot find the character, .get is going to return null. It means that it's the first time that we are encountering the character, so we want to set the frequency of 0. Else, if it's the second one or the third one and or so on, we just want to increase the frequency. So frequency dot put, we need to get the key, to get the old value from that key, and just add the 1. At the end, we need to iterate to the other string. This is going to be the other one, and if we cannot find the character, we just return false, because it means that the second string contains a character that the first one was never added into the frequency of the map. And this time we want to subtract 1. And at the end, I would not really enjoy to iterate the map because it's a pretty hard syntax. I want to show you the more easier way. We already know that they have the same length, so we can just iterate through one of them and see for the key value pairs which are going to be character and 0. So we can go to every character of the t, and if we find a element in the map that is not equal to 0, we can just return false. And from what you can see, it worked just fine. For the Python solution, again, we want to use a map. So frequency of letters is going to be equal to a new map. We are going to iterate, or actually we can firstly see if they have the same length. So if length of the first one is not equal to the length of the second array, we can just return false. Now let's iterate to every character of the first string. For character in the first string, if character is not in frequency, then it means that it's its first apparition. So the first apparition of this character is going to be 1, else we can just increase its frequency. Now we want to iterate to the second array of strings, and if we cannot find the character, we just return false, because it means that it's having a character that the first string does not contain. Else we want to decrease the frequency, and at the end we can iterate through all the values from the map and see if we found a value that is not 0. So for value in frequency.values, if value not equal to 0, then return false, else at the end we can return true. And from what you can see, it worked just fine. For the implementation in the C#, we want to use a dictionary. So dictionary of char int, let's call it frequency. It's going to be a unique dictionary of char int. The key is going to be the character, and the integer will represent the frequency. If first we need to verify the count, the length. So if the lengths are not equal, we can just return false. Now we can iterate to every character from the first string, and if frequency does not contains the character, it means that it's the first time that we are encountering it, so we can just set it to 1, else we can just increase the frequency. Now we want to iterate for every character in the other string, and this time if we cannot find the character, we can return false, because it means that it's containing a character that the first string didn't add it to the map. And now we can iterate to every key from the map, character in frequency.keys, and if frequency of the certain key is not equal to 0, we can return false, else we can return true. Let me just verify really fast what I did. And got a little arrow. I don't have to add this one. And the other array, other string, has to decrease the frequency. The first one is to add the frequency and the second one to decrease it. And from what you can see, it's pretty efficient. Let's start by verifying the length of the string. So if the first string does not have the same length as the other one, you can just return false. And now we can create the hash map. So you can do it in Java in a really easy way. Just allocate a new map, and we want to iterate over every character of the first string. And if we cannot find the character into the map, it means that it's its first apparition. So we want to set it as the key value of 1. Else we just want to set it with an increased value by 1. So the character frequency.get, we need to get the old value and increase it by 1. So we want to set the key character with the old value plus 1. And for the other string, if we cannot find the character, we just return false, because it means that it's not containing a character, or it's having a character that the first string does not contain. Else we don't want to increase the frequency, we want to decrease it. And at the end we can iterate again to the second string, and if we can find a key value pair that will have 0 as the value for the character, or actually it's not going to be 0, we want to return false. Else we can return true at the end. Let me see real quick. Not punct has, just get the value to validate it, if it's 0 or not. And from what you can see, it's pretty efficient too. Hope you enjoyed the video, and good luck in every language that you want to learn.